Hello and welcome to the Nerds Now Playing podcast, a podcast recorded here at the Feely Creative Podcast Studio. I'm Tim and I'm joined today by Devin. Devin, how are you today?
I'm doing very well today.
What do you guys want? What'd you do this week? Anything exciting?
Oh, what did I do this week? Well, no, I did not do too much exciting stuff.
Do you watch anything? Play anything?
Yeah, I did both a little bit. So right now I've been playing through The Last of Us Part 2. Started playing that because I'm watching the show, The Last of Us Part 1. But but I'm watching The Last of Us TV show on HBO, and it's very good, by the way. And it's made me want to play Last of Us Part 2 because I've not played Last of Us Part 2 yet. I've played the first game a number of times, and so I started playing the second one. I've had it on my shelf for like 2 years, and finally...
So it's about time.
Yeah. So the show has been really making me want to like jump back in there. And I've played the first game a couple times, and I'm not like burned down on it maybe, but because I thought about maybe playing through that again. But, But I wanted something new, so I popped in Last of Us Part 2. So that's been really fun.
It's good. I've played both myself, and I know the second game is a bit polarizing amongst fans, mostly just for certain decisions that were made in terms of like the storyline.
Yeah.
No spoilers for now on this, I guess, although it's been out for a while. But
yeah,
and it's also has to do with like the gameplay as well. But I like it. I think it's a great game.
I think it's really fun. I'd recommend anyone who liked the first game and hasn't played the second one to definitely check it out for at least the combat stuff that they have. Everything is like more refined and everything. Really fun. I can see why people might not like some of the story things in the game, but you have to play it and find out for yourself. A lot of it kind of was spoiled for me too.
That's unfortunate.
Like, yeah, you can't go. You have to play these games like almost immediately when released because it doesn't matter. Like, someone's gonna sneak it in and tell you story beats and stuff. But then again, I think that game's more about the journey than it is the destation on some things.
I would agree with that too. For me, I haven't really started playing anything new this week. I've kind of started a new game, the next in the Danganronpa series, because I finished the other one, but I've just kind of waded my toes into that. But I've been playing Fortnite this week. My squad actually got a win last night.
Oh, you did?
Heck yeah. Which is nice.
Did a new season drop?
No, I think it's currently mid-season of what they're on right now. They did drop a new event, which is going on right now. It's like a heist type one. So there are like 3 different areas around the map that have a vault that has like tons of gold and really, really good weapons. And throughout your session, they have this meter that like the heat rises. And so as the heat rises, I think it alerts players more to where you are, or I know for certain that as your heat rises, you collect more gold off of players when you eliminate them. And it also allows you up to a certain point, your health and shield start to regenerate on their own, which is really handy. And there is a free character that comes if you do all the quests,
nice.
Which is really nice. I've already unlocked it.
Cool.
So I'm kind of in the bonus stage of that. But in addition to that, I did see over the weekend the new Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Oh, how was that? What did you think of that?
It was all right. It's this current phase at Marvel isn't necessarily my favorite. I did like it better than the last one. Well, the last one I saw, which was Thor: Love and Thunder. Maybe it's just because I like the Ant-Man movies a little bit more. I find them more interesting. There are definitely aspects of the film that don't vibe as well with me. I think one of the biggest downfalls I think with Marvel right now is that they are pushing so hard into comedy, and I feel like it's fine to bring in a little bit, but they just seem to be doing over, like since Guardians, they've been going over the top on it, and I just think they're putting too much focus on that and less on story.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Although I have not watched the latest Thor movie. You had, and you didn't like it as much.
I would go so far as to say I hate that movie.
I did see scenes, not like they posted some extended scenes on YouTube or something like that, and I watched those, and I feel like that was kind of getting at what you were talking about with some of the jokes. It's like every other line is like a joke, or something, and to me it's like that's not how people really talk, but that's what they're doing with these movies a lot.
Right. Like, I mean, we joke around a lot ourselves, but yeah, like nobody really does that. And also, it doesn't propel the story forward. It doesn't really build character. It really interrupts what's happening. Because a lot of them are also like nods to the audience. So like, there is a moment where in Ant-Man, it's not really a spoiler. Like at the very beginning and the very end, where they straight up break the fourth wall, and Scott's basically like thinking to himself and also like to the audience. It's like, and I don't mind meta stuff, but I just there are things about it that just don't work. One thing I will, it's not really a spoiler because he's shown in the trailer. Bill Murray appears in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
His cameo was pointless. There's no reason for him to be there.
No reason at all. He's just Bill Murray. Is he reliving the same day every day in the quantum realm?
I wish that were the case.
It'd probably be a better movie that way.
It probably would be, yeah, honestly. But yeah, it's okay. Like if you're super into Marvel, I mean, go see it. It's part of the next phase. They've already kind of revealed the next big bad for the series in Loki. If you saw it, which is Kang the Conqueror from the comics.
Not see Loki either. I'm really behind on some of the Marvel stuff, so I'll have to use you as my filter on what to check out and what not to.
Like Loki, I thought was actually pretty good. I really enjoyed aspects of it. The other shows, Miss Marvel, I thought was okay. She-Hulk, up until the end, was good. She-Hulk is very meta, which I don't mind, like I said, but there's a plot line at the end of that one that they just straight up abandon entirely and skip forward. So I don't know. This current phase of Marvel is just kind of my interest is waning a lot.
And what's interesting about the new Ant-Man movie is it's actually rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience score is
very high.
It's very high.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see. Like I think almost all of them have a higher audience reaction than they do the critics.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know which side to trust, to be honest.
Did you end up watching the new Wakanda Forever?
I haven't yet. It's on my list to see.
Okay.
I think that one did pretty well.
I'll be super interested in knowing what you think. I have not seen it yet either, but I did like the first Wakanda.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I think. But I haven't seen the second one. But the trailer looked pretty cool.
Definitely so. Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing that one. That one is on Disney Plus already. So it's on my list to see. It's just a matter of whether I just watch it by myself or watch it with a group of friends. Haven't really decided yet.
But the new Ant-Man, you give it a solid okay.
It's a C.
It's a C.
It's a C.
Well,
it's all right. Like, go see it if you want to. If not, like, wait till it comes out on Disney Plus.
New Ant-Man got an Ant-Man-sized score.
That's right. As far as other things, the new season of Picard dropped last week. It's season 3. First 2 seasons, not the best in my opinion as a long-time Star Trek fan. But so far, the first 2 episodes of season 3 of Picard have been great. I really like the direction they're going. They're bringing back pretty much the entire bridge crew from the Next Generation.
My favorite series.
Mine as well. Or at least my favorite crew anyway.
Yeah.
So far it's been great. If you have Paramount Plus, it's great. The first episode of season 3 is available on YouTube for free, I believe. They tend to do that with most season openers nowadays, I think. At least NBC does. Is that CBS? That's CBS.
Don't worry. In the future, it's all going to be the same thing. It's going to all be Disney. So
no, unfortunate, but true. Well, I guess from that we should probably move on to getting into today's topic, which we are talking about westerns today.
We are talking about
more
westerns.
Specifically, the movie we watched for this week is The Wild Bunch.
The Wild Bunch.
It's a good movie,
and they were a wild bunch.
They were indeed a very
wild bunch.
So I thought it would be nice to kind of start this off by talking about our top 5 favorite westerns. Do you want to go through yours real quick?
Yeah, I will. Going through this list, I didn't realize how much I actually kind of like westerns. Like I don't watch a whole lot of them now, but when I was growing up, I watched westerns all the time.
Oh, yeah.
No, I guess I didn't realize it. They usually played it on AMC all the time, the Clint Eastwood ones and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I always got a kick out of a lot of them. Particularly, I think I liked the spaghetti western subgenre of that a lot. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And
oh, yeah.
Like but so I tried to cobble together a list of the top 5. I Googled some westerns to get my brain kind of thinking about what was all out there because I've seen so much. And then I was looking at some of them online. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that one. I do like that one a lot. And I rewatched a couple of them not too long ago. Not for this list, but recently. Anyways, the list I put together was my top Western movies include Once Upon a Time in the West, Shane, An American Tail, Feifel Goes West.
Ooh, an animated one. Nice.
No Country for Old Men, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I have seen at least a little over half of that list. I haven't seen the first one you mentioned, or Shane. I've seen parts of them, but I've never seen them in their entirety.
Once Upon a Time in the West, that's Sergio Leone's epic Western film. That was one of my favorites. It's a very long movie, so like as a kid, that would like take 5 hours to get through with commercial breaks. But very dirty, gritty Western movie that has a pretty star-studded cast with
nice.
Jane Fonda.
Wait, Jane Fonda's in it, or Henry Fonda?
Henry Fonda.
I was thinking that'd be a much different movie.
That's right. Oops. Well, Henry Fonda. And who else was in that? Charles Bronson is in it.
Oh, nice.
Before he did all the Death Wish movies, but has a really cool cast, and that style of movie, the dirty Western, has always been my favorite. Shane, I like a lot. That's probably one of my more favorite 50s. I think it came out in the 50s. But that kind of Western movie, which kind of some of the John Wayne type movies.
Oh, yeah.
But Shane, John Wayne isn't in Shane. That's its own movie, but I really liked the characters in that one, the story, and I had to put in American Tail, Feifel Goes West, because I do remember watching that as a kid a lot.
Me too. I'm a huge Don Bluth fan. So, and actually, I just recently did a Don Bluth marathon with a buddy of mine. Unfortunately, we didn't get to the American Tail because we only had the ones that he had available. But that one, I think I've watched that one more than I watched the first American Tail. And part of it's just like the cast is fantastic. I mean, I don't remember who plays the main kid, but I do remember. Dom DeLuise is probably the one that comes mostly to mind.
Oh yeah,
who plays the cat? And I love like the line that I always remember for me is the "Give him the lazy eye."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love the little song that the Feifel sister sings.
Yeah.
I just enjoy it in general.
Yeah, very fun animated Western that I've always liked, and I still do. Those characters, the voice actors, and all that really takes me back to being like 8 years old or whenever I was watching that.
Absolutely.
And then No Country for Old Men.
And that's a neo-Western.
That is a neo-Western, so a little bit more than, I think it was set in the 80s.
Ah, okay.
But the time in which it's set isn't like really the main thing there, though. But it is, I think, it's set in the 80s. But it's a little bit different vibe of Western. But that one won an Oscar, though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that might be the only one that did.
That one's really great. I love like Anton Chigurh in that movie, and the bad guy with his coin flipping. Great.
And the air compressor gun.
And then, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I think is a classic choice for Westerns, but one I keep coming back to and has a lot of rewatchability for me. Love that movie with the score, Clint Eastwood, I'm forgetting the actors' names, but the ones who played the ugly and the bad, I love.
Oh man, I don't remember. I can picture them, but I don't remember who they are.
Yeah, so those are some of my favorite Westerns.
And that one's got a really iconic score.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows the
exactly. Yep.
thing. So I guess I should go through mine real quick.
Yeah. What are yours?
So mine, and this is not in any particular order, but True Grit, the original one with John Wayne and Glenn Campbell. And also Robert Duvall as Lucky Ned Pepper, if memory serves me correctly. I grew up watching a lot of John Wayne because of my dad and my grandpa. My grandpa always had the Western Channel on when we were ever at his place.
Nice.
So I really enjoy that one. I just love, in particular, I love one of the ending scenes where John Wayne's group and the other group I think it's like Cheney's group, are rushing at each other on horses. And John Wayne is like double handing shotguns with the reins in his mouth and just going at each other. And I think it's fantastic. And there's a lot of behind the scenes thing with that movie, which apparently the main girl who played Maddie was a little bit of a difficulty to work with. But I really like that movie. I think it's fantastic. As far as the remake, I like aspects of it. It's not. I don't like it more than the original.
I like that it's around.
Yeah, I like that it exists. I mean, it's Coen Brothers. I love Coen Brothers, and I mean, they made a lot of choices that do feel more authentic in a lot of ways to those older westerns that just kind of tend to glamorize things. So, like Jeff Bridges, as much as I don't love his mumbly choice of how he's speaking in character, but it is very it's a character choice. which I can get behind because that character is very much a drunk and he's kind of washed up and all this stuff. And I believe that adaptation is closer to the book.
I think so too.
So there it does have that going for it as well. Although I do think if I remember correctly, that whatever they used in the ending credits, whatever music, didn't feel like it fit to me in the credits. But I don't remember what the song was.
Interesting.
But so that's my first one. Magnificent Seven, the original.
Solid choice.
Yul Brynner. I don't remember who else is in it. It's Yul Brynner and 6 others. I think Lee Marvin is in it as well. That one has such an iconic score as well. That like that one, the score for that one, like you hear references to that theme in other westerns. In fact, like The Wild Bunch, it's very reminiscent of that for me at least. I don't know if that was intentional. But that one is on my list. I've loved that movie every time I've seen it. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. One
of my honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm. It's a favorite of mine. I mean, that's John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, and Lee Marvin. And that one, it's not as much of a Western as I think you would imagine it to be, but it's more the circumstances and the situation of things that are happening.
Exactly.
That are interesting. 3:10 to Yuma. The remake with Christian Bale, Russell Crowe, and Alan Tudyk, I think is fantastic. Like the way it's shot, it's gorgeous. I think the score is great, and the set looks fantastic. It's extremely well done and way worth a watch. And then the last one I have is The Mask of Zorro, the one with Antonio Banderas and
Anthony Hopkins.
Thank you. I couldn't remember his name.
Don't worry, got you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really love that movie. That one shows, a lot of these Westerns have a tendency to kind of take place in or near Mexico, or like in the South America area. And I think like that one, it shows the grittiness of that time period. But it's also nice kind of to see like the rebellion of like these, of like Zorro, who's fighting for the native people who live in that area. And I just think it's extremely well done. And Anthony Hopkins is just, you can't help but enjoy his performance.
Oh yeah, I really like The Mask of Zorro too. That one was directed by GoldenEye director Martin Campbell.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we have a Bond director behind the camera for that one.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. I always liked. I think I went and saw that one in theaters. But I liked the opening when the original Zorro, Anthony Hopkins character, saves the day, and then he quietly goes into retirement or something.
Yeah.
But,
and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah,
also
she was in there. Yep.
Yeah. They do a great job. As far as my other honorable mentions, Blazing Saddles. I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan, and that one it's obviously satirizing the Western genre, but it does take place in the West up until the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, definitely Western.
But I love it. I think it's well worth watching. Tombstone is another one. Unknown, and then The Sons of Katie Elder, which is another John Wayne one. John Wayne, Dean Martin. I can't remember who else off the top of my head, but that one I really love the story of that one and how it unfolds. There's just something about it that I really enjoy.
I've seen a lot of John Wayne movies, except for that one. I mean, he did make like 1,000 of them.
Oh yeah,
so
he's been in so many.
But I'll have to check that out. Since you put that on your list, I'll have to check it out because there's still what I found fun about looking up other westerns to jog my memory is just how many there are that I haven't actually seen yet.
Oh yeah,
because I haven't actually seen Butch Cassidy
and
the Sundance Kid. So
yeah, we got to watch that one. That might be a movie night movie.
Just slipped from my radar. I don't know. I just never watched it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those classic movies that I still haven't seen. Like I haven't seen Shane or what was the first one you mentioned? Once Upon a Time in the West.
Once Upon a Time in the West. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on my list. I just haven't got around to them. But we should probably start talking about today's movie, which is, as we mentioned, The Wild Bunch. This is a movie with William Holden, Ernest Borgnine. I have to look at the list here. Robert Ryan, Edward O'Brien, Justin McQueen, who actually is in. He plays TC in this movie, but he actually is in The Mask of Zorro as Three Fingered Jack, I believe, is the name of the character. Much older in that movie, but interesting. I noticed that. And then Ben Johnson. So that's the main cast for this movie. Kind of the basic plot is that this aging group of outlaws decide that they kind of want one last score before they kind of retire from doing this, as kind of the Wild West is kind of transitioning out and to a different era. And The movie opens with a really iconic line by William Holden, which is, "If they move, kill them." As they're robbing either a railway station or a bank. It's not. I think it's a railway station, is my guess. And it starts in this just really gritty and rough shootout where like half the town is obliterated, half of his gang is obliterated, and it's all like the guy who's behind this other posse, Robert Ryan's character Thornton, is kind of in charge of this posse that was hired by I think it's the railroad, to try and take out these outlaws because they're sick of being robbed. And so they set up this operation, and they kind of put that, which is why Pike, who William Holden plays, his gang come to rob the thing. So they get through this, and they lose a lot of their crew, and a lot of people in the town die. And they get back to their encampment, and they find out that it was all a setup because what they were robbing was not, in fact, money, but washers.
Mm-hmm. Which was set up so Pike's character, Pike and the gang go to rob the train, and but they were I'm forgetting the character's name, but they his Pike's old partner
Thornton
worked with the to put those washers in there, and so then so then they get to escape the train. Or
the train comes later.
They rob the train station, and then they discover they have those washers.
Yeah, and so at that point they're kind of just wondering, like, where do we go from here? Like this was supposed to be the last one, and like we're basically out of money. We have no options. So they end up kind of escaping to Mexico, or going into Mexico, and they go to kind of the newest member of their gang, Angel, who is from this small village. And they end up going there and finding out that there's this guy called Mapache, who is part of the Mexican Federal Army, I think, who has been kind of running rampant and like stealing horses and women and just all the resources that they have in his war against. I don't remember the other who he's in war against. But so they end up making a deal with him that if they steal all these loads of rifles or guns and ammunition from a train, that he will pay them for it. And so that's what they kind of agree to. And they do end up doing this. And the train sequence is a pretty lengthy one, but like they end up getting there, and they were also kind of ambushed by Thornton's gang during this, and they managed to make their escape. And they get to a really iconic scene where they blow up the bridge that Thornton's gang is on as they make their escape. I'm trying to think of so they do this, and then they kind of escape back to an area nearby. I think it's Agua Verde is the name of the village where Mapache is.
Yep. I was just looking it up. Looked on my list, and now I don't have it on my list, but you said it correctly. Yep. So this setup of the movie with robbers. An old gang of robbers really sets up a movie with a lot of shootouts, double crossing, and a lot of death.
Much death.
So then, so tell us, Tim, what did you think of this movie?
I had ended up watching it in two different sittings. Because I had a lot going on, but I can see why it's so critically acclaimed. Like it's got a fairly high score on anywhere that it's at. Like I said earlier, the score is very reminiscent of Magnificent Seven to me. That it feels like a very iconic Western theme. I like that it shows the grittiness of that era, and in fact I believe in the trivia for looking at this, Sam Peckinpah, who was the main director, and Green, I can't remember who was the co-writer. They wanted to show how dirty, how gritty, how hard that time was, and because they felt that a lot of these previous westerns really glorified or made it look heroic. All the things that are happening, and they just kind of wanted to show a different view of it. And so by opening the way they did with this gunfight in the middle of town, that's just, you see people everywhere that are just getting massacred, basically. And I think it's a really unique take. I really like that aspect of it. And I like I think the rivalry between Thornton and Pike, I mean, you don't really see it on screen because they're not really ever together on screen. But you find out later in the movie that Thornton used to be part of Pike's gang at one point. And I think it's really, I like seeing the rivalry between them and how, one of the major themes for this movie, that at least from what I see, is loyalty. Loyalty to the people that you're with. And it's specifically mentioned a couple times. There's a moment where one of Pike's gang wants to get rid of one of the guys because he feels like he's not worth anything. And Pike stands there and corrects him and saying, like, no, if you don't stand by the people that you're with, you're basically an animal. Like you have to be true to your word and do. So like it's kind of that honor amongst thieves.
Oh, exactly.
Kind of this aspect.
Absolutely, because no one character in this movie is actually like a good guy, quote unquote.
Absolutely not.
Like they're all the bad guys, but the good guys are just not even in the movie. Like
exactly,
it's bad guys amongst bad guys. Air quotes.
But there's still like kind of almost like a code between them.
Yeah,
and it's the same with Pike's feeling towards Thornton. Like he's not upset with Thornton for doing what he's doing because Thornton got caught and basically sent to prison, that you find out, and he basically says, all right, fine, I'll help you out in hunting down Pike. And I don't remember his reasons for doing it. I think it was like either that option or go back to prison. And so he gave the railroad his word that he would do this. And Pike doesn't hate him for that. He says like he gave them his word. And there's a moment between him and Ernest Borgnine's character where he does the same thing. And Borgnine's character is Dutch. I had to look it up on my paper real quick. So for him, it's less of you staying true to your word, it's who you give it to.
Right.
So he kind of has an opposite feeling. And you can tell in the scene that Dutch wants to fight him back on that, but he can tell he's not going to win that battle. So he just kind of stops and they continue onwards. But loyalty is, I think, the biggest theme I see for this movie. It's really sticking by the people that you align yourself with. And you can see that to the end of the film because so near the end, after they steal the gold, they go back to Mapache and they kind of they don't trust him because they feel like they might get double crossed, and so they strategically they bury and they hide a lot of the weapons and ammo, and so they
stole from the train.
Correct.
Right.
And so they bury these and they send like 2 people in at a time, meaning like, hey, if you want these, you got to pay us this amount for these ones now, and we'll take that and you can have your stuff, and then we'll send more people back so you can get it in shifts, basically, which is a really smart way of doing things. And when this happens, there's a moment early on where Angel, the newest member, he basically says, I will only help rob this if I can give some of the rifles to my people. So because they don't like Mapache, they don't like what he's doing. And so they kind of want to revolt against him, or at least join in the fight against him. And so they end up making a deal that he gives up his share of the gold for 1 case of rifles and ammunition. And Mapache finds out about this somehow from, I guess, Angel's former lover's mom?
Yes, correct.
How did she find out about it?
I think they were puzzled about that too.
I don't understand. That's something personally I don't understand how she would know. I guess talk goes around. But so Mapache finds this out and basically captures Angel at the end of the film and starts torturing him. Like they beat him to death. They string him to the car and drag him through his compound. And at the end of the film, the Pike's gang are kind of left, wondering like, well, do we just leave him, or do we take what we've got and run and just live, or do we stand by our people, again back to the loyalty, and try and get him back? And so they try and negotiate with Mapache to buy him back, and Mapache's like, no, I don't want, I want him for what he's done. And
then that doesn't really go well for everybody. But yeah, let's talk about that in some more depth there, because then that goes into one of the wildest shootouts in the movie.
Yes.
So the whole movie is just what I like about this movie. So what I was just going to say that, like, like when I first watched this movie, because this is like the second time I think I watched it, but I think the first time I watched it still stood out to me, which was not even that long ago. I think I watched it maybe 5 years ago. But what stood out to me was this movie's like, it's not dark, but it's like so violently depicted and realistic in a way, with the violence in This movie came out in 1969. So when I first watched it, I just felt like, wow, this movie seems wild. Like The Wild Bunch.
Appropriately named.
Yeah, appropriately named, but because the movie is like so violent right off the get-go. And I was not expecting that from this kind of Western.
Oh, yeah, especially from that time period.
From that, yeah. And maybe there's... I'll have to look at some of when these other movies were released, because like I don't remember when Once Upon a Time in the West came out, but I'll have to look that up. But it'll be interesting to see where it falls in the timeline, because this movie is like very gritty and violent.
Yeah.
And from the first beginning of the shootout, when they rob the train station, they're not only shooting each other, but they're shooting the innocent bystanders that are around.
Yeah, because there's like a temperance group that happens to go through town, and they take advantage of that for cover, and like all of those people pretty much get massacred.
And that is so like bonkers to me. Like this movie just like I would expect that kind of violence and stuff in a modern movie anytime, but this is like, and I don't know, maybe I'm not giving 1969 enough credit for its violence, but depicted on movies and film. But like every character has their own moment to shine, as how like unhinged they are a little bit. And beginning the movie in this train station robbery, one of the things I liked was the I forget his name, but he's one of the younger crew members.
Oh, the one who's told to hold the people there?
Yeah, he was told to hold people. And I think everyone else was getting away or whatever, and he was still like in that room or something with those people. And he and it was making him sing and stuff. And then I like, there's a part where they like sneak off. But then he chases him down and I guess shoots and kills them all. He said that he shot them like they were fleeing like turkeys or something. And I was like, dang, that's hardcore.
It's brutal. Well, then he himself gets obliterated immediately. But like he smiles as he was dying. So like he has no remorse at all for what he just did.
Yeah.
And neither does anybody in this movie, really.
Yeah.
Which is kind of goes back to like you said before. They're all just bad people.
They are not, because those are the outlaws that are doing the robbery, and then Pike's former partner, Thornton, not a great guy either, because he used to run with him.
Yep.
But now he's aiding with the bounty hunters.
And bounty hunters are famous for like playing by their own rules. Like I guess they would be listed as more like anti-hero kind of. But like they don't care either. Like there are several moments where like after a shootout, they just go to the bodies and start stripping them and looking for anything of value, regardless of who those people were.
Oh yeah, they were like stealing the boots off them.
Yep.
What I thought was really funny about that scene was they were taking the boots off this I don't know if it was a soldier or whoever was killed, but they were like robbing this clothes off of him, and then the two characters start getting in a bickering fight between them.
Oh yeah, it's like who killed who?
Yeah, who killed who, and they started arguing about it, but then they like had an about face about it.
They make up really quickly.
And they make up about it, and so these bad people are just like, oh, I'm sorry. and
You're right, we both killed him.
Let bygones be bygones. All right, let's just, as friends, rob this dead corpse.
Right, exactly. Because that's what friends do.
So, like, that kind of stuff in this movie was just, like, just bonkers to me. And I was surprised I hadn't seen it for so long, until even though I watched it, I think, maybe 5 years ago for the first time. But given a rewatch, it's like, this movie, I would have probably been more on my list if I had watched it sooner in my life, because like this was just so out there. And
I agree. Well, even like kind of speaking of these bad people, even at the beginning, and you and I were talking about this earlier today. There's a scene. Like in the opening scene when they come into this village, there are a bunch of children that are just like basically torturing a scorpion. They make this kind of wooden pile.
Yeah, they didn't like that scorpion.
I mean, the scorpion wasn't doing anything. It was just minding its own business. But like they put the scorpion like in a fire ant hill and like are just watching as the fire ants are attacking back. And like at one point they actually like light something on fire and put it over them.
Even the kids in this world aren't innocent.
Oh no! Like they were laughing so hard that like, we're torturing we're torturing insects. and arachnids, because that's what scorpions are. Like I mean, I realize there's probably not a lot to do during that time, but the fact that they're laughing about it is just disturbing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if like I never like did like the I can't think of it now, like the looking glass shining thing down on an anthill.
They focused on that for a while. Now, like that played
really
out for a long time. So that stuck out and was kind of almost distracting to me. Like kept thinking about that scorpion that they kept killing.
Well, I guess like, and by opening the movie that way as well, it kind of shows the kind of grittiness and like just the reality of it. Like people just do things that are not necessarily great, and that includes children. So I don't know. It's an interesting way. That scene is just. It sticks out in my mind. It's just wow. I don't know how to react to that. But moving kind of back into the plot real quick. So towards the end, they try and get their friend Angel back from Apache, and they have this really long, like iconic scene where they're walking up to Apache to demand basically like we're taking our friend, regardless. And Apache's like, you know what, fine, you can have him, and then proceeds to cut his throat, which then begins the long and extremely
not a
bloody.
good play on his part.
No, it was a terrible move. It got him and everyone else killed.
So what we're getting to now is there's a big shootout that happens in this movie. Like
The big finale.
everything like builds to this moment. What I like that you pointed out was with the loyalty amongst the characters, because before we get even to so Angel was one of their members who wanted the guns, so they held back some guns and they tried lying about it, saying they lost it, but what was that? What's his name?
Mapache.
Mapache. I gotta try and remember that. But Mapache, really gross guy, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So they did a good job of setting him up, being grungy and dirty and sweaty. And there's a part earlier in the movie where he Angel's former lover is with him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll get back to that gun shootout here soon. But yeah.
Mapache.
Mapache, yeah, very gritty because he. But when the gang goes to Mexico and they go to that town and they meet with Mapache for the first time, he's with Angel's girl.
Yeah.
And what I was going to point out, like a lot of the characters speak Spanish in the movie. Which makes sense.
Which was I don't know if it was in what you watched, but like there were no subtitles.
There were no subtitles. I did put them on my movie.
I did as well,
but it was just English subtitles. They didn't translate what the Spanish speaking characters were, and which is really bad because there's a moment in the movie that I really I need to have one of my Spanish speaking friends watch it and maybe interpret it for me, because there's a point where they're all sitting there. Angel sees his former lover.
Yeah.
And they have a dialogue exchange, and she's basically like laughing at him, like being like a small man. I think she's antagonizing him.
Yeah,
like,
it seems like it.
Like being a little man. Now she's with big man over there.
Big man Mapache.
And she like kind of laughs at him, like like kind of a belittling kind of way, and then so that sets him off, and then she shoots her dead. Yeah, when he sees
right in front of everyone. Yeah,
and on Mapache's lap.
No, yeah,
and I was like, dang, this guy.
But it makes me wonder, like the fact that they don't have subtitles. Like, I wonder if that's if Sam Peckinpah, the director, if that was intentional, because even a lot of movies from that time, if they had foreign language, they still usually included the actual subtitles.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was a specific choice. Like he just wanted it to be, if you don't understand what they're saying, then you don't. But as long as like the intention, like as you mentioned, you can kind of tell she's being antagonistic.
Yeah.
That it gets across, regardless of whether you know what the dialogue is.
And this happened several times in the movies, but you're right. Like I didn't need to know. I'm just super curious to know what they actually talked about, because it seemed like nuts, but you can tell with her face and his reaction, like you can already infer so much what's going on. But yeah, super interesting that they didn't have like straight translation for you on that. But it really did a good job of setting up Mapache as the slimy guy. I mean, he wasn't doing anything outright wrong. I think it was more on her. It was her problem.
Oh, definitely. Well, and she like just to attribute how gross he is. Like he's clearly an older man. Or really old, like maybe midlife, I don't know, and
definitely older than she was.
Oh, certainly, probably twice her age.
But I guess one of the things that stood out though is when Angel shoots her and she's dead. Like
he doesn't really even care.
He's not that bothered by it. She's just another disposable thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that had a lot of seated character in there.
Yes, very much so.
For that. So so anyway, yeah. So that part stood out to me. So Mapache, pretty gross guy. Just wanted.
Yeah, no, it's a good callback.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at the end we get this the iconic shootout, and oh my gosh.
And that's because Angel, they wanted to get Angel back,
Mm-hmm.
and when you were talking about loyalty before they even went and did that, there's a famous walk that they do.
Yes.
Before that, and they decide amongst themselves that like they're gonna go out the way they want to go out,
Mm-hmm.
and that loyalty thing played up because they're loyal. They're still loyal to Angel. I mean, he's part of their crew.
Oh yeah.
And then they took him, so they Mapache in the group took him so that they could punish him for trying to take the guns.
Right.
But then we get that iconic. There's an iconic walk that's used on, I think, maybe the poster art and stuff
Yes,
too
it
that
is.
you see advertisements for the Wild Bunch. But it's the four of the main. The left. I think there's four remaining at that point, right?
Yeah, I believe
because
so.
we've
Yeah,
had
four.
we've had some deaths along the way. There's the four remaining people in the crew.
Was the other one Sykes, the old guy? I think we mentioned him earlier.
Yeah,
but
Sykes,
he had to kind of escape because he got shot by Thornton's gang.
That's true.
So he's not part of the walk. He shows up later.
Mhm.
So I believe it is just those four. And it basically ends in everybody, the main heroes, the main protagonists of this film also dying. Like all of them do, regardless. And so do all the people that are part of Mapache's gang and anybody who was kind of an innocent bystander, quote unquote innocent. So, and to kind of finish it off, Pike's gang gets there. They loot the bodies, or his gang does. And Pike kind of decides that he doesn't want to go back with them. He's just going to sit there. And so he sends them back. And as I understand it, Sykes, who was the old guy that was part of Pike's gang, intercepts, he's part of Angel's village, or like he finds people that are going to revolt. And I guess off screen, basically, they end up capturing Thornton's gang, killing them, and so that they could actually bury the bodies properly. And Thornton ends up deciding that, well, he's this far into Mexico, they probably can't trace him now. So he basically rides off with Sykes. And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
But I think it's a super great movie. We don't have a lot of time left, so we should probably go into some of the trivia.
Well, before we go into that, let's talk about the actual shootout though at the end though. So one of the big the things that everything's building up at this shootout. They've already the gang of them already decided to go and get Angel back, but that requires going into like the beehive of trouble and to get him back. And it sets off one of the like a lot of the stuff in the movie, the violence and all that stuff. Everything is like the climax is here with it's an amalgamation of everything. It's everything thrown together. Because when they cut Angel's throat, there's no good way out of that. And they shoot Mapache, and then there's this very intense moment there, like no one's like doing anything immediately right after that. Mapache's dead. There's their general, and then they're all just like kind of there's like the standstill.
You know, what do we do now?
Yeah, and then I don't remember. We didn't really talk about it, but I didn't know how. But there's these German soldiers.
Yeah, they're part. I think they were studying the weapons or giving weapons or something.
Yeah, and they were really interested in the machine gun. They got a machine gun as part of one of the
things on the train.
The guns and the train thing in here. And what I thought was interesting when was it Pike? I think it was Pike.
Yes.
Saw the German soldier. He just it was like screw it, boom.
Yep, and that's really what starts. Like as soon as he shoots the German officer, then it really all hell breaks loose.
And that's where like this movie was with all the violence and stuff. That shootout was next level violent.
Oh, it is.
Like one of the bloodiest things I think I've seen in a Western that would probably have come out by that time.
Oh yeah.
And like the amount of bodies that are just piling, like getting shot out and stuff. Like I could not believe it. But that was so crazy, and
it is insane.
And it you would expect there to be very few survivors, and but they had a machine gun there that they by that point had set up on a tripod, and Pike, they get the machine gun too, and they're just blowing people away. I've never seen anything in a movie like this, like in a lot of westerns like that. This is like what you would expect to see in like a Quentin Tarantino movie in the future, but but you don't have to wait, because this movie from 1969 came out, and now all that stuff happened.
Which, speaking of the machine gun, there was a really funny moment earlier in the film where Apache is trying to use it, and they keep telling him to put it on a tripod, and he's like, no, I'm just going to try it myself. And he's just hand-holding this probably extremely heavy piece of like kind of fairly primitive huge gun, machine gun, and he just kind of goes haywire, and he shoots up the thing. He shoots up his place before anything happens.
Yeah.
Which was pretty funny, I felt. Like there's not a lot of breaks of humor in this movie. So it was kind of appreciated in that moment.
Yeah.
But so looking at kind of some of the trivia, especially going into that last scene, from a filmmaking standpoint, there are so many cuts, like jump cuts, in just that last scene alone. But throughout the movie, I looked it up, and it's over 3,000 individual cuts.
Wow.
In this movie. It is insane. Like, I think I saw like the average amount of time that a shot is held on is like 3 seconds in this movie.
Wow. Especially at the end there.
Oh, yeah. As far as like the use of guns and stuff, I think I saw that there were over 90,000 blank cartridges that were used, which is, I believe they said, more than some small battle, like maybe the Mexican-American or I don't remember which war it was, but they said it was added up to more than anything used in those, which is just nuts. One thing I think is also really funny as far as the so the very beginning of the movie, where they kind of have the opening credits where they introduce who's in this film as part of the trivia. So they, on William Holden and Ernest Borgnine, they hold in a close up of their face. Jerry Ryan is 7 of 9 in Star Trek. That's a different person. But who is it? Robert Ryan, thank you. Robert Ryan, who plays Thornton, apparently was so upset about him not getting top billing in this movie that Sam Peckinpah specifically held on a shot of the horse's rear ends when his name came up as a joke, because he was just so annoyed by Ryan insisting on it.
Wow.
Which I just think it's hilarious. And I already mentioned before, Waylon Green, that's the guy, that's the co-writer. He and Peckinpah felt that westerns were too glamorized, so they wanted to make it gritty, and it's done well. I'm trying to think of any of the others. An interesting tidbit as well. So in that opening scene, there's a moment where you can see two children that are holding each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are Sam Peckinpah's children.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
They're just probably wondering, what the heck is Dad doing, laying waste to this whole town?
Why is everyone dying?
I do remember those kids clutching to each other with all that stuff going on. Probably pretty traumatic stuff for those the characters of those kids.
Oh yeah, I would imagine so.
I see here on the film trivia, one of the notes is that the train robbery itself was not in the script, and that all those scenes were improvised on the spot.
Apparently, well, I'm guessing at least the dialogue was probably improvised. I would guess the train robbery itself had to be in the script, because otherwise, you would have had to arrange that day to get a train and get everything else. Granted, these bits of trivia I pulled off of IMDb, so most of those I believe should be fairly credible. The iconic walk, though, I believe was improvised.
That I read that too. Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to be there, but that became such an iconic moment that they used that for marketing as well.
Really cool imagery with anamorphic lenses and stuff, and the way that was framed. But made it even cooler is the context before that.
Oh, yeah.
And all that stuff. It really makes that, extra cool.
Sounds like it. So I'm guessing I already know the answer to this, but would you recommend this movie?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you haven't seen The Wild Bunch yet, and like Westerns, especially don't mind the violent ones, I definitely check this out. Especially this one's real. I've read, this was kind of a big deal when it came out. It upset a lot of people because of the depiction of violence.
I could see it.
And what surprised me is not only the violence, they have nudity.
Oh, yeah.
Just it really seemed like it pushed the limits, and not just the violence with other characters, but with like against the women and the innocent people in the town and stuff. Like no one's really safe in this movie.
No one's exempt from the horrors.
But yeah, definitely recommend it. Super gritty. I'm surprised it's not like ranked higher on my list. And what I liked about it, now maybe I'm incorrect, but like a lot of the characters in this movie, the actors aren't actors that I would normally associate with westerns a whole lot. Because normally there's like the John Waynes or the Clint Eastwoods or whatever actors. But I like that the roster here is ones that I was mostly unfamiliar with westerns anyways.
I would agree. Like especially like for me, Ernest Borgnine, I don't see in a lot of westerns, so that's kind of a nice touch. And I like him as an actor. So
I liked a lot of these actors. A lot of great character work happening with each one. Everyone stood out. Was pretty unique. So yeah, definitely recommend. How about yourself?
I absolutely recommend this movie. I think it's a great time. I actually need to, now that I've seen it, I feel like I need to rewatch it again. Like I probably won't do it for a while, but I can see why people like it. One of my professors in college, that iconic shoot it at the end, he's mentioned it to me before on numerous occasions that just how much he really likes this movie, and so I can see why it gets high ratings. Like you said, if you really like westerns, especially if you're a film buff and enjoy different genres like westerns, I think this is a great one to watch. And especially because it does kind of show that the grittiness of that time period, whereas a lot of these kind of classic westerns with John Wayne kind of make it heroic or glamorous, and almost making kind of a dreamy, like you want to be there. In this case, in this instance, you don't want to be there.
You don't, no.
Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
No, sir.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that does it for this episode. Join us next time for Nerds Now Playing, and we'll see you then.